What has happened to our nation? Father, you look for a man to stand in the gap, but you found none. Well, Father, we say, look again. There is a battle for this nation. Father, we are asking as a Church of Canada, by your Spirit, you would give us the grace to stand for life. Stand for justice. Oh, Canada, like never before, we stand on guard for thee. If as people are coming on, and as you watch this after, people are coming on later, that was our Battle for Canada promo for Edmonton 4 years ago. In fact, 4 years ago, the memory popped up. We posted that video for the first time 4 years ago today. What's the chance? And today is we are 3 months away from Battle for Canada. I'm going to say number 6. Now, I need to explain something here to everyone in just a moment. But first of all, this program is primarily designed to inform and encourage, enlighten intercessors, prayer warriors, those who love the nation of Canada, who stand on guard for it, and who are faithful, committed watchmen and warriors on the Canadian Firewall, which is in its last part of 3 years, full-time 24/7 prayer. If you are part of that contingent, if you're part of the Firewall, I just want to once again thank you for standing in the gap for the nation of Canada and for praying. And there was, as you know, 5 Battle for Canadas. Now, I'm going to give you just a little bit a history again. Bonjour. Hello, Kathy and Trina and Christine and anyone else who's on here. For those who don't necessarily know, you're new to my Facebook, you're newer to the Firewall. There's, the Battle for Canada was a journey. It was a moment in time, which became a bit of a movement, which started 5 years ago after the word of the Lord came. And there was I'm just going to say it. There was a couple powerful dreams. One of them I had a word, a dream. I saw in 2017, 6 years ago now, I seen a darkness coming, and I told the prophets of the land at that time, I said, in 2020, in the year 153, which was Canada's 153rd birthday, Johnny, hey buddy, speaking about dreams, John Perks is one of the ones who had a most powerful dream telling us where to do the very first national gathering. I had already given a word to Stacey Campbell and the prophets back in October of 2017 about an impending, a coming darkness that had a communistic feel to it that was going to lock us down, clamp us down. I saw a lid coming down. It was going to stop the blessings of the Lord, and we were going to lose the harvest as the Church of Canada. Now, I brought that word to Stacey Campbell, and the prophets at that time said, what is the antidote to the darkness that is coming in order that we don't lose the harvest? And I said, it's national gatherings, multiple. And Stacey Campbell said, well, then do it. But as you know, I did not feel that I was the one to do it at the time, for sure. That was October of 2017. John Perks would get a dream the following January of 2018, where the old man in the dream, God said to him, gather the nation together in the battlefields this coming November for 10 days. Now, I have said it very clearly here before, and I'll say it again. If I was to plan a national gathering, it probably wouldn't be in November, nor would it be in Saskatchewan per se, nor would it be in North Battleford if it wasn't Saskatchewan. Maybe Regina, maybe Saskatoon, but not North Battleford, a little town of 20,000 people. And in November, it can be winter, and it became winter when we were there. Nonetheless, that was a dream. That was the word. Many national leaders from around Canada in months to come would weigh in on the dream, including Lou Angle and Dean Briggs from the States. And they said, this is of the Lord. We called it as a team, we called it the Battle for Canada. And I felt of the Lord. And I had the word given to me. There'll be five spokes we see. And I knew the last Battle for Canada would be Winnipeg. That was back in 2017. In 2022, we did our fifth and final Battle for Canada in Winnipeg. And I felt that I needed to be obedient to the Lord. I needed to tell Canada, tell our staff, tell our ministry, this would be the last Battle for Canada, because I want to be obedient to God. Even though the Battle for Canada, as we stated, that moment in time became a movement, and the movement became a family, we still wanted to see the family be family. We still wanted relationships, especially in such shifting seasons in the world, in Canada, in 2020, 2021, even into 2022. We saw the churches shut down, a lot of them. We've seen people in despair, depression, in fear. In fact, we still do. And what we found was this Battle for Canada family brought hope. It brought strength. It brought a sense of unity beyond the denominational divides. Hello, Heather, and hello, Carol. Brent, yes, great things have happened in the past 5 years to the Battle for Canada. And you know what, guys? Guess what? We are doing our sixth Battle for Canada. Now, let me explain, because before people say, hey, Art, oh, you're being disobedient to God. You weren't supposed to do any more Battle for Canadas. Isn't there a different name you can call it? Indeed, after we did our fifth and final Battle for Canada, which, by the way, was a movement of repentance. The movement, as we went to Battleford, as we went to Edmonton, to St. John, to Kelowna, to Winnipeg, it was the church coming together for representing the last 150 plus years of sin, the sins of our fathers, who, in the name of God, partnered with evil government. I'm not saying all government is evil, but the evil doings of government, evil policies, were partnered with the theft of the land, the destruction of the First Nations families, the implementation of residential school assimilation policies, the rejection of the Holy Spirit in various moves of God, the silence on 50 years of abortion, so on and so forth. We, as Canadians, as a coalition of ministers and ministries, came together in 5 separate national gatherings, as well as dozens of smaller local gatherings in different regions of Canada. We came together, we did our best, we repented on behalf of the sins of our fathers, and as for the silence of the church on moral issues, and we did our best, and we fulfilled the mandate to go to Winnipeg at the Forks and break the curse where East was divided from West, and so on and so forth. And I won't get into everything that was done at Battle for Canada, Winnipeg per se. And so I, Art Lucier, I felt I was being faithful in laying it down. That's what the Lord said to me. Some people around me were not so convinced that we should, but I had to be obedient to God and say, people were saying, but Art, the Battle for Canada is like getting well known now. I'm like, that's fine. Could you imagine if the Lord said, lay something down, then it's like, but God, I'm not going to listen to you because, it's got some momentum. And that we went on to do Prince Albert per se in last October. And if we did a Battle for Canada at Prince Albert, could you imagine had God not showed up because we were disobedient to what he told us to do? I did not want to run the risk of not having the blessings of the Lord on this ministry, on our gatherings. And so I laid it down. Now, but as last fall and in the spring, everywhere I go and people are like, oh yeah, Art Lucier did the Battle for Canada, that's what he's known for. I'm like, well, okay. So and here's when kind of something came to a head. I recently, a month ago, was with Dick and Joan DeWitt on the third day program in Lethbridge. I was very honored to be with these, these elders of Canada. These, when I say elders, they paved the way for media. They are an apostolic, prophetic pair who have done so much for Canada and for the kingdom of God in contending for the prophetic, so on and so forth. I was honored to go and be on their program. And Dick said to me, how do we introduce you? I said, well, they said, you have Harvest Ministries. Yeah, I do. Harvest Ministries is the overseer of Kelowna Harvest Church. And really a lot of the events that we do, it oversees the Firewall, even though the Firewall is its own entity. I said, so I've got Harvest Ministries, which was established in 20 years ago. We've got the Firewall, and I did lead the Battle for Canada. That's over now, but that's done. And they, okay, well, let us introduce you before we go on air. And so instead of saying Art Lucier is the director for Harvest Ministries International, or even Art Lucier is the overseer for the Canadian Firewall, what they said was, this is Art Lucier from Battle for Canada. And I'm like, well, that's the only thing I'm not doing now. It's like, but that's fine because everyone knows me from the Battle for Canada's, even though they are over. But I felt something on it, just like, and when I was driving away that day in Lethbridge and driving up to be with Chris Bernanke in the Harvest Church in Edson, I said, Lord, you told me to lay it down, but people are still saying Battle for Canada, or is it just going to die out? Do I continue to tell people, let's not talk Battle for Canada anymore. Let's talk more faith, fire, freedom events, or let's, the Revival Reformation Alliance, which is a family which came out of the Battle for Canada. And by the way, the Canadian Firewall is the intercessory engine, protector shield, in a sense, of the alliance of the revivalists and the reformers who have come together in these days. Though the Battle for Canada had ended and the name was put to rest in Winnipeg, a family came forth, and there was still a family. And do we just call it family? What we called it was an alliance, the Revival Reformation Alliance. But when I drove away from Dick and Joan DeWitt that day, and I started just to say, hey, Lord, why do I feel that this is not supposed to go away? But you told me to lay it down. I felt an impression to pick it up, but I was silent about it. I'm like, okay, well, And by the way, in 3 months from today, when we go to Quebec, everyone out there were like, oh, the battle for Canada is coming to Quebec. I'm like, no, the battle for Canada is over. We did our last one in Winnipeg. I said, Lord, they are saying there's a battle for Canada happening in Quebec. It's like, so what do? I came home. I talked with our staff, which includes my wife. And I said, okay, I'm a little bit unsettled with this. I feel that it's possible. The Lord is saying, pick up the battle for Canada again, though the mandate has changed. It's no longer a repentance move per se, but now it's actually the battle for Canada is about making a stand and reforming the church in Canada, which will lead to a revival wineskin. Though the mandate has changed, the name is supposed to continue on. And I said, I need help here. I need help to my staff. What do? Guys, I feel that maybe we should call it Battle for Canada Quebec, but I don't want to go against what I felt the Lord say, even though I'm feeling that maybe he's saying, pick it up again. And my wife, Heather, said, I told you weren't supposed to drop that name. I said, well, that's fine. Listen, Heather, listen. I said, I needed to be obedient to the Lord first. I said, you always liked the name. And the rest of my staff said, yeah, we believe that we're supposed to continue on calling our national gatherings the battle for Canada. For guess what? It really is a battle for the nation of Canada, isn't it? The battle for the nations has been ramped up. We have never seen anything like this in our time. We have heard about it in different communistic nations. We have read about it in the history books. Listen, Heather, listen. Yeah, I can only say that so much, right, Ralph? It's like so my wife told me, I'm just like, the battle for our children has never been stronger. The battle for our freedom has never been greater. The government of the world and of Canada has never been more deceived or more against the word of God or against freedom itself. The battle for this nation has never been so intense. And I am honored to be told of the Lord what I feel, and by my wife. and by a lot of you in the nation of Canada, the battle for Canada must continue. So I am happy and pleased to announce the battle for Canada is coming to Quebec City in 3 months from today. We are calling every single warrior and watchman, intercessor, minister, saint, fivefold minister, musicians. We are calling upon you. You are needed in this hour to come and be part of the battle for Canada in the East, at the birthplace of the nation of Canada, where the first settlers first would really come in. Though St. John is the first incorporated city, though they would have first landed on the rocks of Newfoundland, the battle for the nation of Canada between the English and the British, the French and the British happened right there, 5-minute walk away, where we are going to gather in the nation of Canada and call for a healing once and for all between the French and the English, the first peoples, the Atlantic peoples, all peoples. We're going to come together. We're going to call upon the name of Yahweh. We're going to call upon the name which is above all names. We're going to call upon the name of the Lord, name of God, to come down and to bring to give us authority, to help us move in our authority, to bring revival, to bring a wineskin and a reformation to the Church of Canada, that we would grab a backbone, that we would find our voice, and we would say no to the powers of darkness as evil tries to steal our kids, our freedoms, and our nation. So you are needed in this hour to come. Before we bring on our guest, I want to throw on one more promo. Let's throw on another promo. I'm feeling a little nostalgic today. I think we played the promo. What was the promo that we just played? That was one for Edmonton, the promo that we just played at the beginning of the program. Here's another one.
I believe that heaven is listening to the words of Kelowna right now. There are angels on assignment right now. There is breakthrough coming right now. You have come from across Canada to gather to Kelowna to ask God to release a new prophetic voice across this nation. Let it rain in the spirit of prophecy. Let it rain with new apostolic anointing and strategy for the nation. Let it rain for revival and miracles and transformation. Your word is being heard. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, people of God, rise!
Levez-vous! Levez-vous! Levez-vous!
Honor you, Apostle Ken Gill, the chief of the nation, and we as the prophets of God say, you. Divine alignment is happening.
Oh. Well, that kind of stopped quick. Not sure what happened there. Yeah, feeling a little nostalgic today. God has absolutely anointed and blessed us all to come together and to become a family for such a time as this. Speaking about family, we're gathering tomorrow night in Spruce Grove. We're going to, and in true Battle for Canada style, Barry Miracle, Mark Brisbane, myself, Casey, some others are going to be there. Chris Bernacki, one of our directors, Harvest Ministries. I don't know, maybe Steve Holmstrom's going to show up. I'm not sure. We're going to come together. We're going to, with our worship, unlock the heavens, and we're just going to see what the Holy Ghost wants to say. We're expecting to go a deep dive into the things of the Spirit. We're calling it Kingdom Encounters. There's still time. I think there's still a few seats left. Go to rra.ca. By the way, rra.ca, more and more, we are establishing a website for the national scene to tell you about different events, and like Steve Holmstrom's doing, or whoever's doing, Barry Miracle here, Mark Brisbane here. And we'll see you soon. I jump on a plane tomorrow morning. And then, of course, rally the troops. Speaking about Quebec, let me quickly show you this. This is our Battle for Canada. Rally the troops. We used to call it run to the battle, but we're going to rally the troops. This is our first and only real rally the troops with national leaders coming together in Toronto, April 6th and the 7th. There's a few seats left for that in Woodstock. The hotels, it's on the site if you want to go in person. We've got people coming from east to west. We even have a special friend of mine coming from Germany, who I'm going to bring on the program pretty soon. I'm introducing him to the apostles and the prophets of Canada. So the live stream will be available. By the way, live stream for tomorrow night is available as well for Kingdom Encounters. And you can watch, if you can't watch it that right then. And it's Friday night. We're doing seminar style teaching, answering questions, impartation times, 10 a.m. in Spruce Grove, stopping for lunch, and at 1 o'clock till late afternoon. Then again, Saturday night and Sunday morning. Live stream is available for that as well. Go to rra.ca. Well, you guys, it's been one heck of a ride for the last 5 years. Let me just say that. And out of this incredible movement, which became a family, the Firewall was birthed, which means 2,000 to 2,500 intercessors weekly taking their place on the wall. And Canada is in your debt. thank you, Firewall, for all of your prayers and all of your intercession. We feel compelled of the Lord to continue to give a platform and a place of unity for the intercessors to come together into our 4th year. So get ready for Firewall 4.0 coming, and there's going to be a few new changes. And if you are looking to possibly lead an hour, please get a hold of us at info@canadianfirewall.ca. That's info@canadianfirewall.ca. If you're ready to lead an hour, to be a watchman on the wall, and you need some warriors to be along with you. Speaking of which, yes, Todd, Passover on April 5th, 6th, 7th. We are coming together in Woodstock. You're all invited on the 6th and 7th. That's Passover and Good Friday. What a time to come together to be part of also the coming Great Communion Revival. Dean Briggs is coming up from Kansas City to be with us. He just wrote a book called The Coming Great Communion Revival. He'll be with us there in Woodstock. He'll also be in Quebec with us. But we're excited about the 4.0 and this Firewall must continue. And there's a story quickly before we bring our guest on. There's a story in the Word of God that everyone loves. And that's when the Israelites were fighting the Canaanites. And Moses, if he stood on the mountain and held his arms up, Israel would win. When he got tired and let his arms down, the enemy would win. So both Aaron, Moses' brother, and Hur helped keep Moses' arms up in intercession between Israel and God. And that's what the Firewall does, isn't it? We're holding our arms up to God. We're like priests before the Lord, interceding for our families, interceding for our children. But down in the valley, we must not forget about the Joshuas who are smashing swords on shields. When Moses' arms were up, Joshua would win. When Moses' arms came down, Joshua would lose. So Moses had help keeping his arms up. And the Firewall is keeping Moses' arms up in this time. Because there's different ones, like the guests that I'm just about to bring up, who are in the valleys, swords and shields. There's ones like Barry Miracle, Fatine, Sammy Robinson, Mark Brisbaugh, different ones who are out there, swords on shields. There's different prophets. There's like Michelle and Fred Pexa. There's Renee McIntyre out in the East. There's these different ones. There's business people like friends of mine, Torgelsons, who are in the business sector. We need to keep the truth tellers' arms up, like Jordan Peterson and Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, and these ones. The Firewall is so needed to keep Moses' arms up, to pray for the Joshuas in the valley who are fighting for the nation of Canada, the truth tellers. So with all of that, Battle for Canada, Quebec, it's a go. We bought all of our tickets. We bought a new bus. We're on our way. We have rented. We've rented a large convention center right across from the Plains of Abraham. And by the way, if some people are like, well, I don't know if I can go, make it a family holiday. Quebec City, old Quebec City, is one of the most beautiful spots in the nation of Canada. The history, it is beautiful. And of course, St. John Baptiste Day is Quebec's national holiday. We're going to go right from there, right to Canada Day. Come, incredible worship, power of God. We have guest ministers who I'm not allowed to say who are coming yet from the States, fathers, mothers who fight for us, who are very well known prophetically in the nations. Anyway, come and be part of history in the making. Come and stand. Else, one last thing I'll say about that. Luc Gingras an incredible musician who has an incredible band out there in Quebec. He said, Art, this is going to break the curse off the land. We want to agree with you, Luke. So now it's been the most incredible 5 years. There's been revival is here. It's at our doorstep, signs in the heavens. We've had multiple people get saved. Just led this guy to the Lord last week in our church. He was an ex-Mormon. He hadn't been to church in 30 years. 30 years, and he started coming to church because someone invited him, but it was so different for him, and we're very loud. We have loud music, and he couldn't quite get over the loudness of it. But then I gave an altar call last Saturday night, and he gave his life to Jesus. Isn't that beautiful? Speaking about Mormons, I was recently had the privilege about 6 weeks ago to lead a former man who was grown up in the Mormon church, a First Nations friend of mine with an incredible call on his life. He was on the reset right after that, I believe it was. And some of you have already seen his face. His name is Midegah. That's his First Nations given name. He is on his birth certificate, it would say David Taylor. He is on the fast track with the Lord. And some of you have said, hey, whatever happened to that guy, Midegah? Well, without further ado, I want to introduce him to Canada on Eagle Eye, a man who has recently given his life to the Lord recently. And we're talking this year, he gave his life to the Lord, but you're going to be pleased all that the Lord is doing for him or through him. And also, I want you to keep him in your prayers. So without further ado, I would like to welcome David Taylor, a.k.a. Midegah, to Eagle Eye Prophetic Perspectives. And there you are, David, in Germany. And you were just, you just got back.
That's right.
From an incredible time in the mountains. Where were you and what were you doing?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'll speak some Ojibwe Moan. I am an Ojibwe, which means it's a shortened word from Oji Chagwan Bewa'a. It means I'm a lowered spirit in a body acting in a good way. But if I really believe that, you're Ojibwe too. And I'm glad to sit in this circle with you because we're one human family. And so a year ago, many don't know, I'm coming up on an anniversary, just so you understand where I went to the highest mountain in Europe. It's at Chartreuse in France, just south of Switzerland. And I believe that what makes the tree powerful, what makes the great redwood strong, is it doesn't forget the roots when it was growing in crooked ways. And a year ago, I lost my oldest son. And you know, 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, my creator of all things seen and unseen took me on a journey across water to prove my heart for two young little boys and to restore an opportunity to make a decision different than I made in my 20s. And I was able to give two little boys 100% of their dad. But my oldest son, he took his life a year ago. And so I had traveled down, and I'm not afraid to talk about, I think I might be the only person who will social media talk about not just the high points, but the really low points. I've never seen anybody go from one mountaintop to another without going into a deep, dark valley. And some people fall off cliffs. And let me tell you, I've fallen off some cliffs. And so I went down to this mountain last year because I was going to take my own life. And and when I was there and I was carrying the rock, I carried a rock from the bottom up. It didn't happen because I had a moment of clear reflection with my creator. I say, Gichi Manadu, I Gichi Dawe Bushke Gin. And it means my great creator who made all things. I'll receive what you send to me because the struggle must be for my good. And so I went back to honor him. And so that's where I was at, down in southern France.
Well, I've seen you. We were talking, we've talked quite a bit lately and through Messenger and stuff because, not through text, you being in Germany, but you had a beard growing there because you were out in the bush.
I'm a weird guy. Many don't know, like I had a strange childhood. I come from a pretty amazing bloodline, but I still had a strange childhood. There's about 3 years of my life where I was, they say we were kidnapped. But for me, I all day long I was in nature. I left the fire and disappeared, and no one cared. And I was with my creator. I used to climb up trees until one day it felt like the wind was responding and it was with me. So it was a remarkable time for me. So a part of my experience in this world is to get away from everybody, because I want to get into the silence where I can feel the voice of my God. And you can't hear that with all the noise that's surrounding you. I have this poem where I say, you know, so who are you amidst the noise? Are you at another seas? Are you at another fills? Or are you the dream within your heart whose light reveals warmth, love, and compassion? And I have to go do that. And so I'll disappear. But that means there are some pleasures like warm water and being able to shave that just aren't there. And so, yeah, I realized, wow, for the first time, I have a lot of white in my chin. It blew me away. But I had a pretty remarkable experience down there this last time. But I almost didn't make it here. I wanted to tell you, people don't know. Today is it's 3/23/23. And I came on right at 2:30. Really strange. Now, I almost didn't make it. According to the GPS, I should have been home at midnight over here, which would have been like at 4 p.m. there. And I said, Creator, you got to make clear the way. I'm on the Autobahn. And I was able to go 200 kilometers an hour through Switzerland and Germany. And amazingly, there was nobody on the road. Nobody. So I'm here.
You made it just in time. So David, give us a 90-second snapshot of who David is up until, when we met there here in December. Just 90 seconds, just a little bit of just a little tit about who David Taylor is and where he's been.
Well, first of all, when I meet my creator and he says, "Who are you?" I'm dad. I'm a dad to 6 children. I'm a dad to Lucky, David and Henry, Nohealani, Melia, and Lealoha. That's the first. And the second thing, I'm a son of God. That's the second thing. My creator has been with me through my life, through the highs and the lows. The third thing is I'm an Ogima, or a chief of the Adik Sangab Dudem. It's the standing firm reindeer clan of the Ojibwe people. The fourth thing is I carry the Council Fire Rock of Niswi Mishkode Winan, or the Council of 3 Fires first recorded in the scrolls that weren't burned in 796 AD. And I carry that responsibility to influence others to willfully participate in good change. The fourth thing is I'm the bloodline of the Nehiyahuat, or the Iron Confederacy, which for the last 500 years has held the Cree, Assiniboine, Métis, the Ojibwe, and the Dakota together. And I guess the last thing is, along that path, I spent about 14 years in the United States Marine Corps. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a killer. I admit it. If there was a hell, I'd cast myself into it. But I think that my creator will forgive me, or has forgiven me. The last thing is I'm your friend and brother. And I'll empty my glass and receive water from anybody who calls me brother. And that means whether you're a Jew and you want me to have a synagogue edition Chumash to read, I'll read it. Whether you're from another child of Abraham, which is Ishmael, and you want me to read a message that was given to them by the angel of Gabriel, I will as well. Or whether you are the other children, those who are not from Abraham, or the Gentile, and it was God himself who redeemed them, I'll listen. And I believe strongly in the Creator who lives and is through everything, seen and unseen, and it's the major part of my life.
Fantastic. Thank you for that snapshot. So you had told me back in the day you spent some time in the Mormon church. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. My family, I got the strangest genealogy of all time. And so I was like, this is a great story. So through my mother's family is the Pocahontas family, the largest branch of it. And it's real, like Pamunkey Indian Nation. It's real, okay? But also my 4th great grandmother, Martha Smith, married Hiram Bell Bennett, who was from the Pocahontas line. Well, she was the first cousin of this Joseph Smith character, who's a cousin of mine, who founded that church. Now, I have a different perspective on it because I've also gone through our traditional lodges, which were widespread at that time, which was the teachings that we followed from the first two people who walked on this earth, that we still follow to the day, which is the path of kindness. And so I was 20 years old. I had an uncle who was like, hey, what are you doing with your life? And can I talk about this? Can I lead into how the heck I got into this church? So
yes.
Listen, this is important because there are those that are in the midst of a lie. And they have to know the truth because they have good hearts enough that they would submit themselves to such extreme oppression that because they really, really want to be with Jesus. They want to be with their creator, but they've just believed the good snake oil salesman. So I was 20 years old. I was that weird guy at a family reunion. I even though I was like a national level athlete, I was the Northwest Junior Olympic champion for 5,000 meters. Was second in the 2,000, went to nationals, got ninth because I was stupid and tried to lead like 3/4 of the race, not realizing there was like 15 guys as good as me. It was like total arrogance. And then I just liked hearing my name every lap until I realized, oh my gosh, I don't got any energy left. And I could have went to any college, first generation high school graduate in my whole family history. And I didn't because I believed I'd wake up one day and God would my creator would tell me what I was supposed to do. I was at a reunion. My uncle said, you're crazy. You're going to be 50 years old with nothing. Right? Well, guess what? I'm 45 and I have Jesus Christ in my life. So who won, right? So he said, hey, listen, you come stay in my house. I own an electrician company over in Portland, Oregon. You don't got to do nothing for a year, but figure out what you're going to do with your life. I said, well, I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait till I get a dream. And he's like, you're crazy. So I went to his house. Why wouldn't I go live in a big mansion in Portland? And I did. It was the first time I was in a house that literally blew my mind. And I realized the difference between a blessed man and a wise man, though. They're two different things. And while I was there, one of the requirements was I would go to church with him every Sunday. Well, I already went to church every single day. Every day I walked straight into nature that my God created. And I was with my creator every single day. And I learned lessons that nobody can teach, like about the power of many steps. And I'm sorry, this is a long story. I hope it's okay.
Well, but we only got so much time. So, okay. But that's fine.
Anyways, I went to church and I ended up, but then when I went in, I had a fascination. I said, well then, and it was interesting. You meet with somebody and they're like, hey, if you want to be with your creator, who is with me every day, but they're like, if you want to be with him after you die, you got to go in that building. Well, curiosity kills the cat, right? Well, I want to go in that building then. I want to know. So I committed myself to empty my glass, put the glass down, fill it up. And I let him fill it up. And so it took me 8 years joining the Marines, where I had a dream. I was in total blackness. Well, I'll get to that. So I went to church with them for 11 months, and then I had a dream. And I had a dream that I was surrounded in darkness. And when I looked down, I saw yellow footprints. I immediately woke up, where I knew what it was. I ran to the library at Portland Community College, Googled yellow footprints, and it popped up boot camp. I didn't tell anybody. And 2 weeks later, I was standing in boot camp in the middle of the night on yellow footprints. But I still wanted to get in that house because I wanted to know what it was that they were telling people. And so I committed myself, and it took me 8 years. I went in that house, and when I went through that house, I walked out and I said, already been there. Because what they did is that's the 4 rooms of the midday we win, of the traditional Ojibwe, the traditional Indian, the traditional Native lodge, which is the open sky, goes through the 4 chapters of the first 2 people, and they literally copy it like line for line, even to the point where they say the 2 sacred symbols. This is their big thing to go there, the first token of the Aaronic priesthood, and they hold their hand like this. Well, in our lodge, right, we put sema in this hand, and you say a prayer, and then you turn the hand and drop the sema and say another prayer. And they took those things and misstated them. So I realized that it was plagiarism.
You're talking Joseph Smith.
Yeah, he plagiarized the Native American church.
Well, and for those who don't know, I have read the New World Translation. Is that what it's called? Or is it the New World Translation? No, that's Jehovah's Witnesses. What's the Mormon Bible called?
They call it the Book of Mormon. Now, how convenient. You find yourself in the 1820s and 1830s and you know the tribal peoples are facing genocide and relocation, and you know that they're all going to die off or at least be sent so far west no one will ever be heard from them again. You don't have any idea that the internet's going to come around or TV, and so you just take their stuff and make it your own. How convenient. Hey, I'm going to make some profit here. You're watching the lodge of these. Literally, listen, if I were to put together a traditional lodge, and I take you through 4 rooms of the first 2 started as spirits, lowered down into bodies. And then they were told by their God to go name everything. And they did. And they came back and said, hey, I named everything. And God said, well, I made you too. And they said, well, then the man says, well, I'm kindness. And the woman says, well, I'm the fruit of life, but my fruit's like the strawberry. It covers the earth. They copied everything, even to the point where even when I went up to get my naming ceremony, right? And I go up and they give me a name. This is your name of how the Creator would see you. Midegah, which means kindness. And it's to help me remember to be kind. You're a kind guy. They even do the same thing at the end. They walk up to the elder and he gives them a name. But for them, it's like a joke. They just pick a name. Timothy today, Steve the next day. They copied the Native American church almost to the T. Now, they say they restored something. How can you restore something that's never taken? You can go to any indigenous community and go through the lodge, and the exact same stuff's going on, but you never hear about it because we were in the midst of genocide. Theft for profit. Now, the Creator says in this book, woe to those that mistake theft for profit as inheritance. And this is a group that somehow magically this year that they got in trouble because they didn't report $38 billion. And they said, oh, my bad, my mistake. I didn't file the right paperwork. No, it's for greed. I called them on it and I wrote a letter.
Yeah. I don't want to get too stuck on the Mormon faith.
Yeah, I get passionate about it.
Because we're literally got probably about 12 minutes. And we could eat up the rest of the time. I was going to say, I did read the Book of Mormon, talk about plagiarism. Like, for those who know the Bible, if you're listening to me and you know the Bible and you know how Jesus went into the wilderness and Satan came to him in Luke chapter 4, in the Book of Mormon, it has the same story, but it was Moses with Satan in the wilderness. Joseph Smith simply switched up a bunch of stories. As you hear, took a bunch of plagiarism, religious rituals from the First Nations. Anyway, so David, you went to the Marines. You were in the Mormon church for, I'm not sure how long.
8 years.
8 years.
I like to go in their house.
Wow. Yeah. So listen, let's speed up. How the heck did you come to Kelowna, and why? And why did we connect? How did that happen?
Well, last fall, I got contacted by a bunch of indigenous groups globally, tribal groups internationally, who wanted to have a festival. And one of the ladies who was the kind of keynote in that was a chief from the Okanagan First Nation named Roxanne Lindley. And they had picked me because I had been speaking internationally about the United Nations Declaration on Indigenous Peoples, UN Resolution A61295. And they said, hey, with your chieftainship, which is a pretty big symbolic position, can you help us get some people to attend? And so that led me along the trail to meet the royal family of Germany, and then to go to meet this chief in the Okanagan. And somehow, when I was coming there, because of the time frame, a friend who I had encountered in this process had said, hey, I found this person you're going to stay with. And I had no idea who you were, what you were about. But that night was one of the most interesting nights I've ever had. And it just went from there. There's no coincidences.
No coincidences. Yeah. So I get a phone call from this security guard person who's in charge of helping with security for your visit from Germany to Canada. And I had less than a day to think about giving you a place to stay. Never met you. On my day off, and I had to convince my wife of this, and I thought, do I even bring it to my wife? And I said, Lord, what are you saying? And I felt the Lord say, open up your house, you're going to, this is of me, and this is going to be a great connection. And lo and behold, you showed up that night, and we talked for how long?
Till about 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
Maybe 3 a.m.
And so that was in December. You came back in January, end of January, beginning of February, I believe it was. You came back, and tell us a little bit. You were, to me, what I saw, David, you were searching. You have friends, you have rabbi friends.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You've been talked to about the Quran.
Oh yeah.
And of course the Book of Mormon. You've had these religious affiliations, and I do say religious. We can be very religious and very deceived. And even as you said about something, even the Mormons say different. Sincere, very sincere people, but sincerely deceived. You can be sincere about being an atheist, but be very sincerely deceived. So you came back, something happened. You came to our third day house of prayer that night, and we had already been talking. Hey?
I didn't even know it was a church.
Well, you said, hey, do you, Art Lucier, have a place for us and a bunch of First Nations to gather? I said, yeah, we have the embassy. The embassy happens to be the name of a church building. And lo and behold, there were some people who hadn't been to church in 30 years or never wanted to be in church who ended up showing up there. But something happened. Tell us what happened that day. That led to an awakening for you.
Before I walk into that, I want to share two short little verses from Proverbs. One is from 19:20. It says, listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end you will be counted among the wise. And in 23:12, apply your heart to instruction and your ears to the words of knowledge. So I had been reading
your Bible. Have you been reading your Bible a lot?
Listen, I've read when they found me in Europe, the rabbis, the Orthodox rabbis from the Ohala, Jerusalem, they spent a lot of time with me, and I had already read the Old Testament many times, but the original version, which has the oral version, which is 90% larger than the Old Testament in the Bible.
Right.
And so I had already been searching for the name, my journey with my Creator, who's been with me since I was a little boy, and I severed my tongue, and they sewed it on without anesthesia. He gave me my tongue back. My Creator's been with me, but I've been searching for his name since my son died. I want to know your name. You're not the Great Spirit.
That's what you said. That's what you said.
I want to know your name. And so I went searching, and that caused me to empty my glass and sit with those who are the children of Abraham through Ishmael, and he keeps his promises to Abraham without Ishmael. And I went to those, they found me. The rabbis found me, and I listened to them. And then I had been curious about the other branch of my family. And then I had also been actively an Oshkabewis, or a messenger of the stories within the traditional Anishinaabe, or our Indian peoples. And so I've been searching. And so when I was coming there, I had it, but I had never found his name. There's a lot of names. Hashem, Elohim, a lot of names. Kichimanadu. But none of them felt like my friend that I feel every day. And you don't know until you come spend time with me in nature. And then you see, I literally walked up a mountain and I had a cat and dog appear out of nowhere in Journey. I sent you the video. It's true. Yeah, walked with me and slept with me. I had an owl and a moose show up in the middle of the night and hang out with me on the side of a mountain. Totally strange stuff. Like, people need to know the Creator I know. Okay. And so I had a dream. I had the strangest dream the night I showed up there in Kelowna. I had a dream where I was staring at, and I care about my dreams. We believe that the Creator of all things unseen, there's more unseen than seen. And that he speaks to us when we separate from this fake reality. We're in the real consciousness, and you receive a message. Well, I had a message. I saw an old lady. She looked just like my grandma. She was an indigenous woman. Maybe she was represented all the tribal nations. And she was staring in the distance with tears coming down. Strangest thing, I was staring at her. What she cries? She doesn't even know I'm here. And I'm right next to her. I'm trying to talk to her, and she won't respond to me. She's staring at something. So I look to my right, and I see a cloaked figure like Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars come walking up. And he walks up right in front of me, right here. Right here. And I can't see his face, but he lifts up his hands. and he touches her face. And then I don't see her anymore. I see a hand with a hole that is the whole center of his hand. And I'm staring at the scars, and there's many scars, as if he was pierced many times until the whole center was removed. And I said, that's Jesus. And I immediately thought about the scars, and I had already said to my God, I feel like my heart's torn wide open. How do I heal it? And I realized it doesn't have to heal closed. It can heal open. And so I came there already knowing that's my Creator's name. Whether people like it, they better learn to love it because it's reality. And he even said, my Father is that spirit unseen, but I am speaking with my Father. And I wish we all would do the same sometimes. Maybe we'd be more kind to each other. Realize kindness is the power and peace. So I come to your church after having what was a really strange day. And while I was there, and I was like, wow, it's a church. How strange. And I realized these grandmothers hadn't been in a church in 30 or 40 years and talk about reconciliation. And they have to talk here. And afterwards, you had a third day prayer. I didn't even know this was happening. You invited us while we were there. So, well, I'll stay. Now, at that time, I started feeling very, very, very like I think about my son a lot. And I was going to go on a walkabout. And please let this go long. I went on a walkabout. And now if that happens, I disappear for 1 or 2 days because I go walk with my Creator. And if people know me, I disappear. It's not about you. It's about me with my God. Okay. And so I literally stepped out of the building and was going to go on my walk talking with my Creator. And I felt something grab me as if like a magnet, like when you put two magnets together. And I turned around and opened the door. And the second I opened the door, I heard my name called Midegah. Well, that's curious. So I walked up the stairs. Anybody knows it's been there, knows the stairs. And I turned and I saw you. And you said, there he is. Come on up here, Midegah. So I come walking up there. I don't know what's going on. And I stand there and I see this lady staring at me. Now we say Ani, which is I see your light in your eyes. That's how we say hello. It's I see your spirit. Then we say Gin Ina Nana Bojo. I see the Creator working in your life. We're a very spiritual people connected to the Creator. No wonder so much has come down upon us by the devil. And I stared at this lady's eyes because the first time in my life that I've seen, and I didn't know what she was saying, but I stared at her eyes because there was no more color. It was all black. It was all the center portion. And I stared at her as she talked about me talking amongst nations, which I had already been contacted by many nations that wanted to talk to me. And because I'll empty my glass and let you put water in it, because that's called kindness, right? And then I picked a trail that my feet are going to walk. But I stared in her eyes, and then out of nowhere, it was the strangest thing, like a tree falling over. She just fell and hit the ground. So I went down. This is on video. So I went down to make sure she was okay. And the second I touched her, it was as if someone tasered me in the back. And I jumped up because it was the first time in my life that I felt something that came from nowhere. And I immediately, and people don't know how much time, you may think I talk a lot because of the 90-second reels I do, right? But I spend more time not talking because if I get nervous and stressed, I start stuttering. I stuttered till I was like 12 or 13. No one's worked.
We're going to pause there for 1 sec. For those who don't know, right at the end of third day prayer, Nicole, our administrator, Nicole Ashby, went because she had a word for you. So I seen you and I called you up. You came and she started to prophesy over you. And she started to prophesy. When she gave the word, she just literally fell out in the spirit. Boom. People were concerned. You touched her bag. You stood up and started to speak right away. But listen, we cannot go too long because we clip it and we make it an hour and we put it on the firewall later. So it's got to fit within we've got about 3 minutes. So, that night. So after that, what happened?
I knew his name and I came to you and said, hey, listen, whether they like it, they're going to learn to love it. That's the name of the Creator in form on this earth. And what do I got to do to be with him right now? Because I know that this is the path forward and you guys helped me do that. And then, and that's that. And so that's what happened. And again, people don't have to like it. They're going to have to learn to love it. I was just up on a mountain and I was spending time with animals that didn't want to be. Normally, they're not together. And whether you cut this out or not, it happened. I had an experience happen, and I had a visitation, and I had a physical visitation, and I shared it with the Jewish rabbis of the Orthodox Church first, out of the Ohal in Jerusalem, and they said, we want to talk to those people in Toronto. That we're not talking about a battle for Canada. We're talking about a battle for family, for community, and for the Church of God. Where this is the battle, and it is the battle that matters. And so they have a message they want to share during Passover, which is unheard of. And they want to have 15 minutes to tell the Church of Jesus what they need to say, because they understand now, because I told them what the man told me who walked through a light door and talked to me up on a mountain. And it was significant enough that the last day I was there, 2 government officials came up to make sure I left the mountain, because it must have been visible to those down in the valley. And I have a message I'm going to deliver to those pastors there, straight from the angel that spoke to me. And it was a physical being. And nobody can tell me it didn't happen, because I'll take you there and show you where it happened. And I'll deliver a message to them, but only after the Orthodox rabbis during Passover share their message as well, to say to you, he's not a liar. And what I'm saying is truth. And whether you like it, you better learn to love it, because 2023, this is the year 0. And you have to choose yourself who your house serves. Because Daniel had an angel appear to him in the 7th month on the 24th day. And that'll be September 24th of this year, which means something to the Jews, and it should mean something to the Christian church. And that's what I got to share with you.
Well, David Taylor, what a wild journey already it is. And I know you're into the word, you're reading this, we're having talks about this, you're coming to Toronto. Yes. So for those you haven't, do I go to Toronto or not? Listen, this is more than just a pre-Battle for Quebec rally. This is fivefold ministry leaders, apostles, prophets, coming together without much of an agenda on Passover and Good Friday.
Gathering of generals. To
call upon God, and God's going to come down, and it's going to be very interesting. So
I got to tell you something funny real quick, literally 30 seconds.
Okay.
So the first thing the man said to me is, why do you shave your beard? First thing. And I said, so I can look younger. And then I said to him, why don't you shave your beard? And he sat down and he said, well, brother, it just doesn't work for me. Very funny.
Right. Well, yeah. I'm going to say you look better without your beard.
Yeah. Just too much white.
Yep. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, right on. I'm glad you sped on the Audubon to make it to Eagle Eye. David, we'll be hearing from you again. And I'm looking forward to being with you in person. I know we talk lots, and I'm so thankful that I gave that Bible to you. You're utilizing it. You're reading all kinds of stuff. And it's the Logos. It's alive. It's active. It's amazing. And so, David, I want people to continue to pray for David, because what a shift in his life. Now that he knows who the Creator is, his name is Jesus.
And to the First Nations.
Yeah.
And to the First Nations who may be struggling with their traditional beliefs. Our traditional beliefs are founded on the first 2 people who were formed on this earth, and the Creator spoke to them. He keeps his promises he made to you. He made those promises, and he's going to keep them. Your time of restoration is coming. And it's going to come through those you see as your oppressors. They're the ones who are going to grab your face and say, I'm your brother, I'm your sister. And they're going to lift you up.
So good. And I remember, David, what I told you just about realizing who Jesus is, that either he's a liar or he's a lunatic or he is Lord. But Jesus said this, do you believe? You believe in the Father? You believe in the Creator? That's believe right. Also in me. All right. Well, David, what a journey. Honored to be walking with you. We'll see you soon in Toronto.
Yep. Thank you for having me. Never forget, we live in a beautiful blue, green, brown, rainbow-colored miracle we call home, falling through the darkness. So choose today to live with kindness, to think, speak, and act with wisdom, respect, humility, honesty, truth, courage, and love. And when you do that, you'll find that all of creation works for your good.
Well,
Thank you, brother.
fantastic. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on another edition of Eagle Eye. All right, David, we'll see you soon. We're going to have you on again. All right. Well, that was crazy, hey? God is saving all kinds of people, and there's such a shift in the church, in the wineskin. Churchianity is over. Welcome to the kingdom, my friends. And God is rescuing all kinds, isn't he? This is amazing. So, yeah, right on, Todd. It was awesome. Yeah, let's continue to lift up Midegah, a.k.a. David Taylor, in prayer. He's a Joshua in the valley. There is a revival coming to the First Nations of the world, First Nations of Canada, First Nations of America. And David Taylor is going to be used mightily of the Lord to help facilitate that and bring a revelation that Jesus is God. With that, we're out of time. So thank you for joining us here at Eagle Eye, Prophetic Perspectives. Remember, surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without first revealing his secrets to his servants, the prophets. That's Amos 3:7. Until next time, we'll see you later. And go to www.ra.ca. Thank you, and God bless you guys.